On Thursday, I saw The Way Back, and I loved it. Yesterday, I saw Prisoners, and I loved it. Tonight, I saw Rush. Oh, interrogation, what's going on with the gear in my engine here? Stop. Okay, I'll stop. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to MaffmanJones Movie Reviews. I'm John Maffio, your host, and today's featured film is Rush, directed by Ron Howard, starring Chris Hemsworth, Daniel Bruhl, I butchered that badly, and the always beautiful Olivia Wilde. The plot of the film is based off the real-life story of a rivalry between two Formula One racers, James Hunt and Niki Lauda. I'm not going to hold my breath and draw out suspense. Fuck that noise. I'm just going to let it out. Rush was fantastic. I loved it. It's the third movie I saw in the last 3 days that I loved, and all three films that I've seen in this past weekend might end up in my top 10 in December, but that's for another day. This film could very well become one of the big Oscar contenders next year, but let's start with the performances. Chris Hemsworth and Danny, I'll just call him Danny because I can't pronounce his last name, they were great as the rivals. Chris Hemsworth, I think he's become solidified as a sex symbol in this film because he plays James Hunt, and apparently James Hunt was a sex demon, a sex machine, a sex god back in the 70s. The dude's Australian, and he made me believe that he was a British suave James Bond type of guy. That's great. Danny, though, who plays Niki Lauda as the stern, strict, and by-the-books type character, steals the show in a lot of scenes in this movie, and I guess you could say he's a protagonist in this film. There's no legitimate protagonist in my opinion because both characters are protagonists and you learn to love them, which I'll explain in a bit. But I guess you can consider him the protagonist because he narrates the film. He was great too. Along with the rest of the cast, there was no sour thumbs. A film about rivalries does not matter, the subject matter, could be very compelling depending on how the rivalry actually is. And this movie is definitely carried by the two actors who create this rivalry. Their chemistry, in ironic polar opposite way, works for the movie very well. They made the polarizing relationship seem impeccably real. And the reason why I made the point that there's no real protagonist in this film before is because in the beginning of the movie, both main characters in the rivalry are very despicable and they have their imperfections in their personalities. And there's no real reason, I would say, to root for either character. But as the film goes on, their relationship grows and they both learn things about their own lives in their own ways, and that way, you become more invested in the characters, and then you could end up rooting for both characters, for one reason or another, depending how you feel personally. It's all up to you. I'm not even going to go into full detail concerning the cinematography, because it's directed by Ron Howard, and his team at Imagine is just really, really good, so it's obvious that the movie looks great. But something I want to mention, though, is the sequences where racing takes place. I'm not a fan of racing, and the fact that this movie actually kept me engaged for over 2 hours, despite me not liking NASCAR or anything racing related to sports, is very, very impressive. But anyway, the racing sequences are very imaginative, they're full of adrenaline, and they get your blood pumping, and the way that Ron Howard directs these scenes and has them edited, and a lot of good editing. There's an abundance of insert shots, an abundance of close-up shots from within the helmets of the characters that are in the story. A lot of swerving, a lot of crazy things that go on, but it's all done in a very stylistic manner that I actually personally dug. It's more or less the tour de force version of the Fast and the Furious. Another thing I have to mention, even though it seems like he's composing everything these days, Hans Zimmer composed the score for this film, and his score is actually utilized in the right way for this film, because when the crescendos hit, those crescendos actually matter, and it actually made the movie elevate in emotional status. It was certainly put to better use than his score from Superman, because looking back now, Superman's score, even though it was great, it was just overbearing. But that might not have been Hans Zimmer's fault. I'm just saying. There's also a lot of boobage. Lots and lots of boobage. If I had any complaints about Rush, the only thing I could bring up is the fact that the ending was a little bit anticlimactic. Even though I did like the idea of them connecting the fictitious and the reality. But it just, it didn't sit that well with me the way it ended. Essentially, the movie goes out on more of a whimper than a bang, and that's not really a complaint, it's just something that didn't rub well with me. so it might rub well with you. Overall, though, Rush is a very compelling movie which brings home the story of two characters who at first hate each other to ending up respecting each other in a very respectable fashion. I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. It's maffiodosly darn good. I'm very, very apprehensive to show my mother this movie because after she watches it, she's going to have another guy to follow. She's already got a huge thing for Bradley Cooper. I don't want her following around Thor now. Hey, Dad. Ooh, kill him. Right now, Rush is only available in limited release in New York and LA. But if you've seen it now, if you live in either city, or if you see it nationwide next week, let me know what you thought about it in the comments down below. Please subscribe to MaffmanJones if you haven't already so you won't miss another review from me, and like the video too. Also check out Facebook, Twitter, and We Live Film in the info box. I'm John Maffio, aka MaffmanJones. Let's go Big Blue, and I got a need. A need for speed. Like legit speed. Anybody have speed? I'll pay you like $20, $30 for it.